passion and pageantry of college football lives here. This is the Paul Finebaum Show, Hour 1 podcast.
This might be college football heaven.
And the final week of the shortest month is underway. Good afternoon. Welcome in. We got a lot going on this Monday. We're glad you have decided to join us, made it through the weekend. And how about this headline? Vic Schaefer was with us about a week and a half ago, and who would have believed that a couple of days later, they're number one. A lot of number one teams going around these days. How about Auburn in basketball, Texas in women's basketball, Texas in softball, A&M in baseball, Oklahoma in gymnastics. How about this SEC? This league might hang around a while. Number 2, Florida Gators. They'll host College Game Day, first time since 17. Todd Golden has brought this program back, and this is if it all ended today, but it will end pretty quickly, by the way. We're only a couple weeks away. Got 3 number ones from the SEC. Tennessee is a number 2, and man, now even Arkansas with that win over the weekend over Mizzou has crept into the picture. Missouri has said, you know what? We're not playing a spring game. It may not be for the reason you think, though. There's a lot of conversation about spring games all of a sudden. This is because of stadium renovations. But they are not among the only. Texas has already said no. Nebraska, Southern Cal, Ohio State. Those are pretty big names. So what does it really mean and why? We used to count the days before we got to spring so we could see these games, but according to Eddie Masonette III, ongoing degradation of the sport. What's going on here? Eddie is joining us now. Eddie, great to see you. Thank you very much for your time. And I mean, I was already loading up the motor van for taking the kids, the dog, to go watch some spring games, but you're telling me I may be out of luck. Good afternoon. What's going on?
Yeah, good afternoon, Paul. Thanks for having me. And, you know, it's been the constant trend in college football right now that everybody's finding a reason to go ahead and pluck away at their spring game. And I think what's happening is people have found a reason, either very major or very minor, to say, you know what, we can get this out of here. And we saw it years ago with Texas and Malik Murphy, and he balled out in a spring game, and then there was some concerns with tampering there, and all of a sudden, boom, he then goes to Duke. And I think that kind of was a thing where it was like, you know, maybe do we need to be doing this? Yes, no, I don't know. We see Matt Rule talking about concerns about people poaching his players. Ohio State's talking about we're tired, which is understandable. We're basically playing an NFL-like season. And I think people are finding mountains to make out of molehills in some ways to potentially try to get the spring game out of here.
Yeah, I mean, I understood the point of view of Steve Sarkisian. I mean, he played one of the longest seasons of anyone. But is that now the excuse, or is it just the fact that it's not worth the risk? It's also not worth putting players on a showcase where, like you said in the Malik matter, they can end up getting scooped up and you lose them before the end of spring. Yeah,
to me, it's what you're seeing is the pro football, the professionalization of college sports in a lot of ways. Why risk having my backup quarterback potentially transferring? Why risk major injury? Totally get it. Why put plays out there so that our enemies, I mean, rivalries, opponents, whatever, could potentially try to take plays, scheme, strategy away from us? And I think you're seeing that friction of what is the real benefit versus like for the good of the people, our fan base that's spending hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars to root these 18 to 22-year-olds, give or take, to watch. The spring game has been an annual tradition for a lot of people because that was the actual reason, actual opportunity, I should say, for people to actually be able to get a personal moment with this team. And I think what you're starting to see, like with rivalries and close football games that regionally might have meant something, these things are starting to get stripped away a little bit more by the given day and year.
Eddie, there's so many other things getting stripped away too. And while I have you, I mean, you're out there in Houston, which it's part of the SEC now, I guess, if you want to stretch that rubber band all the way across the South, and certainly the largest city that probably follows the SEC on a regular basis. Just your thoughts on what's been going on, especially recently, with the idea that the Big Ten and the SEC are essentially trying to push down the throats of everybody else, giving them 4 automatic qualifiers into the college football playoff.
Yes. When you have the power, you use it. And it's not a surprise that the Big Ten and the SEC would try to do such a thing. The Big Ten is probably finally saying, like, hey, we have equal footing on this playing field right now with the SEC. And I think they're going to go for a power grab as much as possible, because they can look at Indiana and say, if we can get Indiana into the big dance, then that's going to bring up the value of our entire conference. And I think when you start looking at, Texas was there, Georgia was there, you start looking at the fact that Oklahoma risked a lot to try to go into the Big 12. And you see the rising programs that really want to get a payoff on their investment and everything they're pouring into these programs. The more teams that they can get into the big dance, that's more money back to the conference. That means more cranes back on campus to build more athletic facilities and keep folks' pockets fat. And so I think they're going to try to get it while they can, while they have the power. And I think it's very reflective of how things are in this given time.
You mentioned that as well as what we were talking about with spring football. I'm curious just in terms of the average fan. And I know that very few people at the top care about the average fan anymore, but when you work at a place like you do have to think of that fan, because he's consuming your product and your information. But are we getting farther away from really caring what anyone thinks? As long as you've got the power, it's almost like world peace. Just go ahead and bulldoze your way to the top.
Yeah, it's, I talked to my editors, and what I wanted to call that article that I wrote, I wanted to use the headline. Well, there's standards and practices here, but I wanted to call it impoopification. You can kind of read between the lines of what it really was. But you're just seeing a continued degradation of the things that we hold and value the most. And I think the one thing that I put in the story is, like, as a sports fan, I understand the transaction. Like, hey, you're going to try to pull at my money. Hey, like, if these things are going to continue, I'm going to need a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th subscription to watch football on a given platform. I understand it. And I think as these things continue to erode, though, what we do know is younger sports fans don't watch sports nearly as much as they used to. It is more difficult to go watch games. Obviously, the cost of entry into a stadium, a subscription, all of these things are going up. And, you just wonder, when is the tipping point going to happen? And so I understand it. I don't think it's going to end anytime soon. I think we're going to have a 16-team playoff pretty soon, in my opinion. I think you're going to start seeing January Madness. We'll come up with some witty alliterative name for it, where brackets are going to be, they're going to be bracket tournaments and things of that nature for college football. Like, this is just going to continue. But I really worry about the players, their bodies. That's a big thing. They're trading on their bodies. Cam McCormick played 9 years, just finished his 9th year in Miami. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing. Maybe eligibility will continue to be loose so that these players can continue to play. But what I do know is that as these things continue, more and more people will be squeezed out, including Group of Five, and even I think some of the lower tier schools at the major Power 4 schools. People are going to continue to get squeezed.
Great stuff. Eddie, many thanks. Really good to have you on our program. Fantastic point of view. We'll take a short break here. We are off and running here on a Monday afternoon. Your phone call straight ahead. Let's chime in. Give us a call.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
We got Mark Schiffer coming up here in a few minutes. Lenardi on the SEC, and Griff on the road tonight. Is he at the Alamo, or is tonight going to be his Alamo? Some news to pass along to our favorite 96-year-old. This from Rick Carley, our good friend in Beham. Eddie Conyers fell last Friday, broke his right hip. He underwent surgery in Birmingham by Lyle Kane, the noted orthopedic surgeon there. And hopefully Eddie is on the mend. He just celebrated his 76th birthday. He is a regular on this program. And please send along your best wishes to not only our oldest, but our funniest caller in a hospital in Birmingham tonight. Thank you, and appreciate that from Carly. And we continue with more of your phone calls. You want to give us a ring? This would be your moment. 855-242-7285 is our phone number, and Swamp Dog starts it off.
Hello, Mr. Paul. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk to you today.
Doggy.
I want to hear. Yeah, I'm sorry to hear about Collier. I love that guy. He's funny, and what a life he's had, and everything. But what I want to talk to you about is you remember back in the old days when you had these local radio stations, and they'd always have a question, and you could call and answer the question.
Oh, sure, yeah. They'd give like movie tickets or free golf balls, or I remember those very well.
Yeah. Well, I won a free pizza one time doing that. They gave me a whole pizza, Did I
ever tell you the story, Swamp Dog? When we were in college, there was a rock station in Knoxville, and we'd get like 4 or 5 people in the room. And one guy would have his hand on the phone, and they'd say, like, okay, it was a trivia question, right? So we'd have like a sports almanac, and this is pre-internet for you young folks out there. So the question was like, who won the World Series in 1957? And like, I would be dialing the number while 3 or 4 guys would be looking it up. And we won every Friday like a case of beer, and they finally said we were no longer allowed because they knew we were rigging the system. But it was really fun.
All right. Well, let me ask you this now. I'm going to ask you the same question that I won the pizza with.
I can't wait.
And I think you'll be able to answer this, I'm sure. The song Night Moves by Bob Seger.
Right.
He mentions a car in that song. Can you name the year and the make of the car that he mentions in the song Night Moves?
63 Chevy.
Nope. You're wrong, Paul.
Okay.
It was a 60 Chevy.
Oh, my goodness. I knew it was a Chevy because that is absolutely one of my favorite songs. I should have known that.
Backseat of my 60 Chevy. And, I won a pizza for doing that. I can't give you one. I
could probably give you almost every other lyric in the song, but I missed that one. I can't believe it.
I know you could. But the reason I wanted to call you today, the main reason I wanted to talk about that for a minute, because that's just fun stuff to talk about. I know you love music, and I love music. And, that's fun. But there's a guy that I'd like to talk about, and I'm not going to mention his name. I'm just going to say that he is the most narcissistic, self-centered hypocrite to ever call this show. And I wish that there was some kind of intervention that could take this man's phone away from him so that he don't call other people and say
hey, by the way, I'm glad I'm glad you mentioned that, because we had an incident here late Friday, and I realized people were going out to dinner and movies, going wherever you're going on a Friday night. But we had a call here from I-Man, who everybody on this program knows is going through an incredibly difficult time. And I'll go ahead and spit it out, Swamp Dog. He said that Jim from Tuscaloosa called him, and essentially, let me make sure I get this right, because I-Man tweeted about it over the weekend. He said that his cancer was a result of him saying negative things about Jim, and essentially acted like he was happy. I mean, I'm not, karma, whatever phrase you want to use. And only one other time in the history of this program has somebody else ever said anything, and the person said it on the air about someone else who had cancer and ultimately died. But I can't even get upset anymore about Jim, because you called him narcissistic. I think calling someone narcissistic, that's a psychological description of somebody's being. I mean, I think we're a little bit closer to satanic, don't you? I mean, the guy's got to be he's got to be the devil, doesn't he? I mean, who else would say things like that?
I-Man told me this, and this is a tribute to his character. He said, I move on from it because I consider the source. He knows who said it, and he knows what kind of person that is that said it. And he moves on from it, but it really ticked me off because I just don't think anybody should talk to another human being that way.
Well, and then he tried to blame it on me, like I had. Listen, I wish I had the power to make someone go from good to evil or evil to good, but I don't. I'm a talk show host, and that's really all I am. And I am genuinely, I'm no longer angry about it, Swamp Dog. I'm just, I mean, I don't want to sound like a preacher here, but I think if I asked the Pope, who's obviously having a rough time, or Joel Osteen, or the minister at your local church, you know what I think he would say, or she would say? That person would say, we can't get upset any longer. This person really, he's beyond help, so he really needs our help. And the only help that we can offer him as a congregation of people really are our prayers.
Well, take his phone away from him.
Well, no. I mean, I don't. I think you can't hide when you think like he thinks. You can't hide when you have such evil instincts that you would wish another man dead because he may have said something about you on a sports show.
Can you believe it? I never heard of anybody say anything like that. I can't believe he actually believes that. If he does, he's really got some issues.
Well, no, that's what I mean. I wish, and I'll offer. I know a number of psychiatrists in the Tuscaloosa area, in the Birmingham area. I'll offer to make sure that he doesn't have to pay a dime, but I really think he ought to be committed. I know that would be difficult, but I certainly think he needs help.
Yes, sir. Well, I agree, but I just wanted to speak out about that.
I'm glad you did. We are in your debt for bringing that up. Thanks, Swamp Dog. David is up next in Prattville, Alabama.
Hello, Paul. It's just an honor again to be on your show.
Thank you.
Whenever I call, it's hard to get in, but I just heard about I-Man, and I live in Prattville, a town over from Montgomery. And
right.
I-Man, I just want to let you know, man, God bless you, man. Like, you have been like the vocal point of like Montgomery caller around my half my whole life of listening to like the area with Doug Amos and John Longshore and all them, and the area he's called. I've always loved him, like his calls. I know he's an Auburn fan, but for Jim to do that, I don't wish no bad on anybody, but Jim, I hope you crap your panties rest of the week. And I-Man, War Eagle for you, buddy. God bless. Keep the fight, and just keep on keeping on, man, because like there are people here in Alabama only know you. They might call you I-Man, but I know you as Rusty. I never met you a day in my life, but my God, man, I hope that you hear this and you keep raising hell and, being you. And, oh, man, I can't say enough good about you, man. But, Mr. Paul, I hope you have a blessed day, and God bless you, I-Man.
Thank you very, very much. And you know what I think Jim did, and by saying what he did, and I-Man posted it the other day on X, I think what he's really done is he's brought more people aware, and I guess we should thank him, because by being that evil, by being that far removed from reality, which is really where he is. I mean, he's delusional. Everyone knows that. He's got personality disorder. He's a psychiatrist's dream. He has at least brought our attention back to I-Man, and that's really where it ought to be. It shouldn't be on the person wanting him dead. It should be on trying to help preserve life for our friend I-Man. Why don't we take a break? A lot to unpack here the rest of the way. We are coming right back.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
So this is from I-Man the other day. This is I-Man tweeting after Jim had called him and made these rather ugly situations I-Man offering to meet Jim at a McDonald's. I guess he figured Jim would be comfortable at one, I'm sure. We are back taking your phone calls, and let's check in with Will, who is in North Carolina. Hello, Will.
Hey, Paul. I seen where he's going to have Minority on in an hour or so. And my question, if you don't know, ask him when he comes on. Do you think the SEC is going to get 3 number 1 seeds?
Yeah, I mean, I think that right now that would be the projection, but we also know right now is not 3 weeks from now. So I will definitely ask him that, Will. Thanks for the call. Terry is up next in Arkansas. Hello, Terry.
Hey, what's going on, Paul? Thanks for taking my call.
Thank you.
I'm a little under the weather today, and I was under the weather that day when I talked to you, and you said I didn't sound confident. I have all the confidence in the world in my Razorbacks. I think we're going to get on a good run, and I think we're going to beat Vanderbilt on the road. I think we're going to beat Texas. I think we're going to roll through the SEC tournament like our hair's on fire and make the big dance.
Well, that's great. I hope you're right. That would be an exciting addition. How about Braxton up next? Hey, Braxton, go right ahead.
Hey, Paul. How are you doing today?
We are doing great.
You know, Paul, I was going to talk about sports, but the only time I listened in last week was that time when Jim called in. And, Paul, I'm not going to talk about Jim because the attention shouldn't be on Jim. It should be on I-Man, Paul. I-Man, I am so sorry. This should be a family at the Paul Finebaum Show, and I'm sorry Jim did that. Jim just needs, he doesn't only need a psychiatrist, Paul. He needs Jesus. He needs Jesus. Jesus is the only one who can save. But not only that, Paul, you know, I-Man, I'm so sorry. We all love you here. Paul, me, everybody, Paul, I-Man. God loves you. Just wanted you to know that. And you know, it's unfortunate, Paul. It really is unfortunate. It really is. And, I mean, I can't say enough about how I'm sorry to I-Man. But my question to you today, Paul, is how do you think that Tony Vitello is the best baseball coach of all time, and do you think Tennessee will get a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament?
Well, I mean, I don't think you can be considered the best baseball coach of all time after one national championship. Most people consider Skip Bertman from LSU to be the best of all time. And it wasn't just the numerous national championships, it's just the legacy that he left behind. But Vitello is certainly, I think you'd have to consider him the best coach today.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Well, but why would you think he was the best coach of all time, though? I mean, that's quite.
Well, I think that for him to take a Tennessee team that has always had a spark, but they haven't. Before him, they weren't ever as good as they are now. And Paul, he's really
yeah, but the man I just
program.
mentioned, who you probably don't know anything about, he won 5 national championships at LSU. He took them to the World Series a dozen times. I mean, I just think, and I don't mean to sound, I don't mean to sound like your grandfather here, Braxton, but it takes more than one championship to be considered the greatest of all time.
I agree, Paul. I'm just saying that if he continues on the trajectory he's on right now, he could become the.
Well, yeah. I mean, by the way, that is a true statement, but.
I'd say he's top 10 of all time, but that's
well,
me
personally. I appreciate your youthful enthusiasm, but to be considered the best of all time, you need to win more than one. Thank you very much. Michael is up next. Hey, Michael, go right ahead.
Hey, Paul, do you think Florida will win March Madness this year, and who would you put in your Final Four to win it all?
Well, Michael, I think you'd be foolish to go against the Gators right now. What about you?
I think I would too. I think the Gators are winning it all. I think Walter Clayton's the best player in the country.
Okay.
Screw business.
There's no way I would argue with you. Right now, Florida is pretty amazing. They have beaten Auburn. They'll get a rematch coming up. Thank you for the call. Appreciate it. Virgil was his name. Hello, Virgil. Go right ahead.
Hey, Paul. Thank you for taking my call, brother.
Thank you.
Listen, thank you. Listen, I'm a minister of the gospel. I listen to your show just about every day.
Well, thank you.
And this young Jim, he says he's a good Christian, read the Bible, but he's reading the wrong Bible. That guy, I mean, he the Bible
Virgil,
says...
what Bible do you think he's reading?
Destruction. I don't know. He must be reading the Quran or something the other, because the Bible says pride goeth before destruction. Yeah. And every phone call he makes, he's proud of all his sports accomplishments and stuff. And he can't be a Christian, Paul.
Well, Virgil, let me offer this to you. Now, you're a minister, and I'm just a button pusher here, but it's impossible for me to determine what he is, nor would I ever attempt to.
Oh, I can't either. I mean, I'm just saying, the Bible says we'll be known by our fruits, and he's not showing the fruits of
what you're doing is applying. You're applying the scriptures to what he said. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
That's exactly correct.
I think that's probably a fairly good deduction by your part.
Me and I, man, we're online friends. I've never met him. He lives in Montgomery. I live in Florence, and I just want to wish him all the luck. I want him to know that I'm praying for him, and I hope this cancer goes away.
Well, good. Great to hear from you. Let's check in with Rick in Houston. Hey, Rick.
Hey, Paul. How are you, sir?
We are doing great.
You know, Paul, I find it ironic and a little bit, I don't know, that I guess just that it's finally all coming to light on how Jim really is and has been all this time. And, you know, I just, you know, I can't feel sorry for him. And I just think back to all the things he said about a lot of people, especially, you know, you and I, man, in particular.
But listen, I mean, of course he wished me. What did he say? I'm trying to remember. He wanted me to. He wished
one
me
time.
Yeah, he offered. He was hoping I would get a heart attack, and whatever I die from, it probably won't be that. I think he wished stage 4 or whatever. By the way, I don't care, because at least as of this moment, I'm perfectly healthy. I-Man is not healthy. I-Man has gone through a living hell these last 6 weeks, these last couple of months that nobody should ever have to go through, but unfortunately a lot of us do. So, I mean, he can say whatever he wants about someone like me, but wishing a man who is fighting for his life, wishing him dead because he spoke ill of him, I mean, I don't even know how you categorize that in terms of evil. By the way, hold on, Rick, we just put up what I-Man posted this earlier. I'm going to read it for those of you in a car right now. A quick glance at the number of pills I've taken since mid-November. 15 days, November, 31 December, 31 Jan, 29 in February. 954, some days between 15 and 17 pills. You add on top of that 5 chemo treatments. This is what I-Man is going through, and in the midst of it all, he is a guy who hides behind, who's never been seen in public by a single person, who doesn't use his real name, his real age, who only strikes back at those of us who do. This person called I-Man on Friday and said, your disease, your stage 4 cancer, is a result of you being critical of me, meaning Jim.
Exactly. You know, Paul, and the cowardly thing that he does is that any time that anyone that steps up to him and comes back at him on, you know, especially on Twitter, he blocks them unless it's somebody like you that he wants to attack all the time that makes him feel famous. I think that Jim's finally getting what's coming to him, and people are seeing him for what he really is and what he has been all along.
And I tell you what, I don't think Jim has any way out of this except one, and that is to come on here, Rick, and we'll give him the time. If he wants to come on here and apologize to I-Man, we will move on as good people. But until then, the poor guy is just digging himself a deeper hole. We'll take a short break, and we are coming right back.
You're listening to the Paul Finebaum Show podcast.
Back, and Snake is up next. Hello, Snake. Welcome to our show.
Hey, Paul.
Hey there.
Oh, you there?
Yes, sir. Go right ahead.
Hey, buddy. I tell you what. I think it's a couple of years back. I remember talking to the Archbishop Marino about hate. Telling him how I've never hated anybody, but buddy, that has changed. I'm pissed. That guy that thinks he's a modern day Moses from T-Town, he's crossed the line again. I mean, this is ridiculous. I tell you what, if I know why he don't want anybody to know what he looks like, because I know a dozen people that stomp a mud hole in his ass and walk it dry. I hate they're gonna beating a dead horse, but I just had to call about this. This really pisses me off.
Snake, thank you for saying that. You speak for a lot of people. Let's check out Don in Turks and Caicos. Go right ahead, Don.
Hey, Paul. I have called a few times. I had stage 4 abdominal cancer. Was lucky enough to go to the Mayo Clinic in Jacksonville, Florida, and told, you've got stage 4 cancer, here's what we're going to do. And I got to tell you, this is kind of a morbid show because nobody deserves to be told, I wish you could die or whatever. I don't know. I'm coming in late, but I got to tell you that there are doctors out there that are incredible, and I just wish until you face it head on and the doctor tells you you've got stage 4, I don't want to hear anything because it's a gut-wrenching experience, and that's all I have to say.
Well, listen, Don, thank you for sharing that, and all the very best to you as you continue to improve. Billy D is up next. Hello, Billy.
Paul, he is a lightning rod. There's no doubt about it. But I do honestly believe that he has crossed the line in this. I mean, there has to be some sort of red line in the sand, and I think he's actually done it this time. That's saying a lot. And I'll just say this to Jim. Jim, if you're going to smite I-Man over this, then I'm just going to bring this to you, buddy. When you start seeing things crumble in your life, when things start going bad, and all these things are just not going your way, you remember this day and remember this. If you're going to smite him, the whole family of the Paul Finebaum Nation will be smiting you, buddy. So be looking out, and you'll start seeing the signs of like going away from God. Because, dude, when you start talking things like you are, you're no longer walking with God. You're walking by yourself.
Thank you so much for sharing that. You be well. You take care of yourself. Let's check out Kyle in Missouri. Hey, Kyle.
Hey, Paul. How you doing?
We are doing great.
I'm here to talk about Missouri hoops. Where do you think our ceiling lands in the March Madness bracket?
I don't think it's that great because of the inconsistency. I mean, we had Dennis Gates on here the other day after a huge win, and they let it go. And you go on the road, which is tough, especially to Arkansas. But I mean, I think right now Missouri is listed by Joe Lenardi at a 5. That's a tricky place to be because I think you play I think 5 plays 12, and then the winner gets usually the 1 seed, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so. The only thing about Arkansas, that game mattered a lot to them. Caleb Grill went like 2 from 12, 2 for 12 from 3. Didn't play well. I know it was a bad game, but I think we'll bounce back great. Also, who do you think we lean on in the bracket? You go Mark, Caleb, Tamar. Who do you think?
Yeah, I think listen, I don't want to sound like a talking head because I'm really not. I follow basketball, but I'm not like these guys who make a living doing it. But I think it depends on the matchup because the NCAA tournament is about guard play. It's about hitting 3-pointers. It's about free throws. It's about not turning the ball over. Thanks for the call. Bo is up next in South Carolina.
Hi, Paul. How are you?
Hey, Bo. Welcome in.
Hey, thank you. So I want to talk to you about the Sun Belt Conference and the SEC Conference in baseball if you have the chance.
Go ahead.
So basically, if Georgia and Coastal Carolina will, play each other, who do you think the odds are, who would win? Because I know Georgia's got a good baseball program, and Coastal Carolina, they have a good baseball program. Both teams are ranked. Georgia, a couple of years ago, almost they did beat College of Charleston, but College of Charleston almost beat them. So
hey, didn't Coastal win the World Series a couple of years ago?
Yes, sir, they did back in 2016.
Yeah, I remember talking to the president after that. He was, I think, he just became the new president at West Virginia. But yeah, that was quite a story.
Really? Well, I hear that, but it's like I hope that Coastal gets another chance, but I just wanted to know, do you think Georgia has, a chance to make that tournament? I know it's early in the season, but it's
Well, listen, Bo, there's no way to know. I mean, we are 3 to 4 months away from the end of the year, but thanks for the call anyway. We'll take a short break.
Thank you for listening to the Best of the Paul Finebaum Show podcast. Watch the Paul Finebaum Show weekdays from 3 to 7 Eastern on the SEC Network. Plus, you can listen and watch on the ESPN app.